Are the Dolphins about to give Patrick Mahomes another weapon? The running back fire sale that proves Miami has completely given up. When does cost-cutting become capitulation? When does being smart about assets turn into waving the white flag and admitting your season is completely over before Halloween? For the Miami Dolphins, that line is being crossed right now with trade proposals that would send talented running backs to contending teams for scraps. Literal sixth-round pick scraps that statistically have about a 15% chance of ever making an NFL roster. And the most infuriating part? The proposal sending Jalen Wright to the Kansas City Chiefs for pennies on the dollar might actually be the smart move given Miami's complete organizational collapse and the reality that this franchise has absolutely no idea what it's doing anymore. Bleacher Report's Alex K. recently proposed a trade that perfectly encapsulates Miami's current desperation. Send Jalen Wright, the talented second-year running back who's barely gotten opportunities in Miami's offense, to Kansas City for a measly sixth-round pick in 2026. That's it. That's the entire return. A sixth-rounder, the draft equivalent of a lottery ticket that almost never hits. In exchange for a player Miami spent a fourth-round pick on just over a year ago and who still has 3 years of team control remaining on his rookie contract. It's organizational malpractice disguised as prudent asset management, and it's exactly the kind of thinking that's kept Miami trapped in mediocrity for 2 decades. Let's start with Jalen Wright himself, because understanding what Miami will be giving away makes this proposal even more painful. Wright came out of Tennessee as one of the most dynamic running back prospects in the 2024 draft, a genuine home run threat who combined elite speed with surprising power and versatility as both a runner and receiver. He ran a blazing 4.38 40-yard dash at the combine, showing the kind of explosive athleticism that makes offensive coordinators salivate. Miami drafted him in the 4th round, believing they'd found a complementary piece to Devon Achane, who could eventually develop into a featured back. Instead, they completely wasted his rookie season, giving him minimal touches while rotating through a backfield committee that's produced inconsistent results and zero identity. Wright has carried the ball sparingly in 2025, getting just a handful of opportunities to showcase his abilities despite showing flashes of brilliance when given chances. That lack of usage isn't his fault. It's Mike McDaniel's offensive philosophy and Miami's chaotic season, creating a situation where young talent gets buried while the coaching staff desperately searches for answers. Wright is stuck behind a chain in the depth chart, watching from the sidelines as his rookie contract burns away without developing the experience and reps necessary to fulfill his potential. From Wright's perspective, a trade might actually be a blessing, getting out of Miami's dysfunction and joining an organization that knows how to maximize talent and win championships. The Chiefs represent the perfect landing spot for a player like Wright, which is what makes this trade proposal simultaneously sensible and rage-inducing for Dolphins fans. Kansas City's running back situation is an absolute disaster through 5 weeks of the season. Isiah Pacheco, their supposed feature back, has been completely invisible. 127 rushing yards and 0 touchdowns on 32 carries is pathetic production that wouldn't be acceptable from a third-string player, let alone your primary ball carrier. Kareem Hunt, the veteran they brought back after his surprisingly effective 2024 campaign, looks completely washed, averaging just 3.2 yards per carry and providing 0 explosiveness. Patrick Mahomes leads the team in rushing yards, which tells you everything you need to know about how dysfunctional Kansas City's ground game has become. Wright would give the Chiefs exactly what they're missing: explosive playmaking ability that can turn short gains into big plays, versatility to line up anywhere in the formation, and youth to complement Mahomes' championship window. Kansas City excels at taking underutilized talent from other organizations and maximizing their abilities within Andy Reid's creative offensive system. Wright would probably have his best statistical season immediately upon arrival, making Miami look foolish for giving up on him after just 1 year and accepting embarrassingly low compensation. That's the Chiefs' organizational brilliance. They identify market inefficiencies, exploit desperate sellers, and turn other teams' trash into their treasure. The compensation is where this proposal becomes truly insulting to Miami's intelligence. A 6th-round pick in 2026 is essentially worthless. Statistically, 6th-rounders have about a 15 to 20% chance of making an NFL roster beyond their rookie contract, and maybe a 5% chance of becoming legitimate contributors. You're trading a known commodity, a talented young player on a cheap rookie deal with 3 years of team control remaining, for what amounts to a lottery ticket. That's not asset management. That's organizational surrender disguised as being pragmatic. If Miami accepts a 6th-rounder for Wright, Chris Greer should be fired before he hangs up the phone. But here's the uncomfortable truth that makes this trade proposal somewhat defensible despite the terrible return. Miami genuinely might not be able to get anything better. The running back market is completely saturated right now, with talented players available across the league, and teams generally unwilling to invest draft capital in a position that's viewed as replaceable and injury-prone. Wright has minimal NFL production, injury concerns from college, and plays for a team that's 1-4 and desperate to shed salary and assets. That combination destroys leverage in trade negotiations. Teams know Miami is motivated to sell, and they'll lowball accordingly, betting that the Dolphins' desperation forces them to accept whatever scraps are offered. The alternative option Kay discusses, trading Devon Achane instead of Wright, would obviously net significantly better compensation, but comes with much higher risk. Achane is legitimately one of the most explosive offensive weapons in the entire NFL when healthy, averaging an absurd 5.4 yards per carry for his career, with elite receiving ability that makes him a matchup nightmare. He's been Miami's most consistent offensive playmaker this season despite the chaos around him, and trading him would signal complete organizational capitulation. But Achane is also entering the final year of his rookie contract in 2026, meaning Miami faces a decision about paying him next offseason. If they don't believe they can afford to extend him or don't think he fits their long-term plans, trading him now for a 2nd or 3rd round pick makes cold mathematical sense. The problem with trading Achane is the optics and locker room implications. You're dealing your most productive offensive player during a loss season, sending a crystal clear message to everyone in that locker room that the organization has given up on 2025 and is planning for a future that probably doesn't include most current players. That destroys morale, fractures whatever fragile chemistry still exists, and potentially creates a toxic environment where players start mailing it in because they know management has already punted on the season. Teams that handle tanking poorly, and Miami has never shown any ability to tank competently, create organizational dysfunctions that linger for years. Kay's analysis about the Chiefs needing backfield help is absolutely accurate and makes this trade work from Kansas City's perspective regardless of whether they're getting Wright or Achane. The Chiefs are 5-0 despite having one of the least productive rushing attacks in the league, which is simultaneously impressive and concerning. They've won through Mahomes' brilliance, elite defense, and clutch performance, but playoff football requires balanced offense. You can't rely exclusively on your quarterback to make miracle plays when you're facing teams like Baltimore, Buffalo, or San Francisco that can pressure consistently and limit explosive passing opportunities. Kansas City needs to establish some semblance of a ground game before January arrives, or they'll get exposed by a defense that can take away the pass and force them to beat them on the ground. Wright gives them the explosive element they're missing without requiring massive draft capital investment. A 6th-round pick is nothing to Kansas City. They'll gladly gamble that on a player with Wright's athletic profile and age, betting that Andy Reid can scheme him into situations where his speed becomes devastating. If it works out and Wright becomes a productive piece of their offense, they've stolen a contributor for nothing. If it doesn't work and Wright never develops, they've lost a meaningless late-round pick that probably wouldn't have made the roster anyway. That's asymmetric risk-reward heavily tilted in Kansas City's favor, which is exactly why Miami shouldn't accept the deal without extracting additional compensation. The salary cap implications actually favor Miami slightly in this scenario, which is one of the few advantages they have. Wright is on a 4-year, $4.78 million rookie contract. Absolute peanuts in today's NFL salary structure. That team-friendly deal makes him attractive to any franchise looking for cost-control depth or potential starters. Kansas City operates in perpetual salary cap hell because of Mahomes' massive extension, making Wright's cheap contract especially appealing.